and welcome to Casual Learning. I'm your host, John Bannon. Today I'm going to summarize chapter 1 of my newest book, Superdeterminism Defeats Atheism, How Physics Disproves Atheistic Ideology. You can get a copy of this book on Amazon Kindle. The purpose of this book is to enumerate the common principles of atheistic ideology and then show you how Dr. Hanson's version of superdeterminism proves all of these false. These are the principles of atheistic ideology. And I'll be going over each one of them and explaining to you basically what it says. The rest of my book, I explain how all of these are disproven by Dr. Hanson's version of superdeterminism. Now remember, Dr. Hanson's version of superdeterminism is proven by physics, specifically Einstein's special theory of relativity and what is known about the correlations seen in the spin measurements of entangled photons. But the basic proof here is that continuous causation in physics is not real. So the basic proof is very simple. It's a simple idea, but nonetheless true, but a very powerful idea that disproves all of these atheistic principles. And this is important because there are a lot of nations in Europe, for instance, that are now classified as post-Christian nations, meaning that a majority of the people in those nations no longer identify as Christians. So the spread of atheistic ideology, whether you call it existentialism or nihilism, is a very real threat to Christianity and a serious threat to our Western civilization. So Dr. Hanson has given us a proof of something very simple that can defeat this, this seemingly indefeatable philosophical belief system based on philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche or Jean-Paul Sartre. All right, so what are the principles? The first principle is God is not real, right? Obviously, in atheism, you don't believe in God. So the first principle is God is not real. The most common objection to the existence of God is the apparent lack of empirical scientific evidence for the existence of God. The next atheistic principle is moral relativism. This is the idea that objective God-given morals do not exist because God does not exist. Instead, people freely choose to follow their own subjective understanding of right and wrong. And they can't be judged by us because we also have our own subjective understandings of morals and right or wrong. And none of us can claim an upper hand on the other person. So what is good or moral depends on who you ask. Number 3 is you only live once, or YOLO. So this basically says do whatever you want because this life is the only chance you'll ever get to do it. Life is pointless and meaningless, so who cares what you do? You might as well do it. You only live once. Number 4 is we create our own meaning in life. Because life is objectively meaningless, then you are free to create your own meaning. So seek out whatever is meaningful to you, and no one can objectively say you're wrong. In the view of existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre, there is no God and no concept of human nature, but we simply exist and justify our existence afterwards. Number 5, uh, human beings are not special. Life and human beings are just random accidents that came to exist in the universe. The universe itself lacks the very notion of specialness. Number 6, live your own truth. Because everything we perceive as true is bound to our perspective, then our truth is always a product of our interpretations or opinions. Because no perspective is objective, then no perspective can be objectively correct. Because belief in the existence of God is a subjective perspective and not an objective truth, then atheism is just as valid as theism. Number 7, all religions are man made. All religions are produced by human beings. Therefore, God is a human invention too. So basically, if you ask somebody about God and you ask them, well, where'd you find out about that? And then you go to that source and you ask that source, well, where'd you get that information about God? It all eventually leads back to human beings, human opinions, or human writings. So since it's all based on human subjective perspective, then then God must be a human invention as well. Number 8 is scientific naturalism. This is the idea that all phenomena can be explained by science, and there is no need of a supernatural explanation like God. Uh, this views the universe as a closed system where nothing outside that system or supernatural can act on it. So a lot of scientists uh, believe in scientific naturalism. They believe any issue that you ever have or question can be answered in terms of science. No God needed. Number 9, moral evolution. As progress is made in moral thinking, um, it becomes clear that God could not have given objective morals for all time. So, for example, uh, even Christianity considers slavery immoral, but that was not the case when the Bible was written. The Bible doesn't prohibit slavery as immoral. So, there's been a progress in our understanding of morality since the writing of the Bible. But because there's been a change in morality, then that means the God-given morality could not have been just objectively one moral standard for all time. And if that's the case, and God is changing His morality through time, then that's evidence that there is no God, because God would give you the objective rules at the beginning and wouldn't change them, because God is perfect. He would give you the perfect rules at the beginning. There would be no need to change them. So the idea that there is such a thing as moral progress is evidence that God does not exist. Number 10, humanism. This is the idea that humans have the right and responsibility to give meaning and shape to their lives because only material reality exists and God does not exist. The purpose of life is to advance the human race, literally, because there's nothing else in existence that you can advance. Number 11 is pantheism. This is the idea that the universe is God and God is the universe. If God can be said to be anything at all, it would be the mysterious forces that govern the universe. And the reason for this is the only thing we know of, objectively speaking, that exists is the universe, and it certainly seems to be governed by mysterious forces. So the only thing you can say that has the appearance of godlike power is the forces of the universe. So if there's a God, it's the universe, and the universe is God. Number 12, hell is not real. So, because hell is not real, then it doesn't matter whether God is real or not. If God is real, then you're going to go to heaven because there's no hell. If God isn't real, then after you die, you will simply cease to exist, and it won't matter to you since you're not conscious to even be aware of your problem. And then finally, number 13, Christian belief is for losers. So, as Karl Marx said, religion is the opiate of the masses. It's a crutch for the weak to support their miserable lives. Or religion is an excuse for losers to blame the winners based on their immoral behavior to make themselves feel better. So it's sort of like Christianity or religion is invented by the poor losers of the world in order to be able to point the finger at the rich, successful people as being immoral. They may be rich and successful, but they're bad people. So the idea is that religion is essentially invented by the poorer classes in order to feel better about themselves and to be able to point the finger at the rich and the successful and powerful. Um, in other words, if you know the rock band Rush and you've ever heard their song Free Will, Geddy Lee has a lyric in there where he says, kicked in the face, you can pray for a place in heaven's unearthly estate. So, this is the idea that Christianity or religion is a crutch used by the oppressed and poor members of our society. All right, so those are the principles of atheistic ideology. They're all wrong, by the way. I gave you an explanation of what they were. But now I'm going to show you how each and every one of them can be disproven through Dr. Hanson's version of superdeterminism. So stay tuned for the next videos. Take care.